There are many places on our planet that make us feel like we are in paradise. But there is a remote and unknown country where the beauty of its landscapes and the warmth and hospitality of its people are so immense that tourists find themselves enveloped in charms and temptations that are difficult to resist. In this new video from Uncensored World, we will learn more about East Timor, one of the most remote and unknown yet fascinating countries on Earth. A magical enclave chosen by Hindus, Africans, Chinese, and Portuguese over the centuries, creating one of the most diverse and beautiful cultural mixes on the planet. East Timor, the youngest country in Southeast Asia, with imposing mountains and jungles where thousands of people had to hide to survive the tragic occupation by Indonesia, has been transformed into one of the most enigmatic paradises on the planet. A place with unique curiosities such as some of the most biodiverse waters on the planet, an island turned into a prison, and even a tribe of women who fish with harpoons, often without clothes. It is the only country in Southeast Asia where Portuguese is the official language, and where soccer has come to be considered a new religion. It is a region where ancient traditions such as Lulik are still practiced, requiring many women to avoid sexual relations with their husbands for long periods of time. Get ready to discover one of the most amazing countries in the world, a place where guardian spirits are believed to protect villages, but can also bring bad harvests if they are not given the respect they deserve. A country as fascinating as it is enigmatic, which holds the ancient legend that its origin was the work of an ancestral crocodile, whose footprints still mark its destiny. Pay attention and don't miss this video, because we assure you that discovering East Timor with us will surprise you. Let's get started. East Timor, the youngest country in Southeast Asia, is a magical enclave, a hidden treasure in the heart of the Pacific, where mountains and jungles intertwine with a history of resistance and rebirth that make it seem unreal. A place straight out of an adventure novel. This tiny but fascinating country, located east of the island of Timor in Southeast Asia, has witnessed cultures that arrived through centuries of trade and migration, and epic struggles that have changed the course of the country and its people. The island of Timor, on which it is located, is not a unified territory, but is divided into two parts, East Timor and the region of West Timor. West Timor belongs to Indonesia and is one of the country's provinces. The division of the island dates back to colonial times, when the Portuguese occupied Eastern Timor, while the West was colonized by the Dutch. After decolonization, East Timor remained under Portuguese control until 1975, when, after a brief declaration of independence, it was invaded by Indonesia. The struggle for independence that followed was long and devastating, until, in 2002, East Timor finally achieved independence. As a result, it became the youngest country in Southeast Asia and one of the youngest on the planet. With a population of around 1 million, East Timor has one of the lowest population densities in the region, which contrasts with the crowded conditions in other Southeast Asian countries and helps to keep this corner of the world unspoiled. In East Timor, the majority religion is Catholicism, a legacy that became deeply rooted after centuries of Portuguese colonization. Although the church has strongly marked the country's spiritual identity, the reality is that many Timorese live a faith that coexists naturally with ancient animist beliefs. Despite attending Mass and celebrating Christian rituals, a large part of the population continues to believe that nature spirits have real power over their lives, their crops, and their destiny. This fusion of traditions is particularly evident in traditions such as Lulik, an ancestral concept that governs the sacred and the forbidden, and dictates rules that even extend to such intimate aspects as the private lives of women and men. In fact, in some communities, celibacy is maintained for long periods of time if required by the Lulik, as a way of respecting the spirits and ensuring the prosperity of the community. Later on, we will go into more detail about this and other practices in this incredible country, such as that of a group of women who sometimes fish with only a harpoon in their hands. But not everything in East Timor revolves around the spiritual or religious. Those who venture to explore its towns and cities quickly discover another phenomenon that, in a way, also acts as an unofficial religion: soccer. Despite poverty and harsh living conditions, soccer is a passion that unites all generations. From barefoot children improvising goals with stones, to adults gathering in bars or squares to watch matches on small televisions, enthusiasm for the game is omnipresent. In every corner, you can find improvised pitches, European team jerseys worn out from use, and conversations revolving around the results of the latest match. This football fervor is no coincidence. In a country where the wounds of conflict are still present and opportunities are scarce, football offers an escape, a universal language that knows no social differences or historical traumas. Despite its small size, the country has incredible cultural and ethnic diversity, the result of various waves of migrants who have arrived on its shores over the centuries. This influence is reflected in its customs, religion, and above all in the appearance of its people, with unique features that combine indigenous, Portuguese, African, and Asian ancestry. This ethnic mix is also reflected in the beauty of its women and men, who are considered among the most beautiful in Asia. With a unique appearance that blends Asian, Portuguese, and African features, East Timor's diversity is a reflection of the history that has shaped its people. The women of East Timor, with their deep eyes, varied skin tones, and diverse hair textures, embody the strength and elegance of this ancient land. The name Timor, which means light in Portuguese, reflects the brilliance of its history and its people. A people who have transformed suffering into strength and natural beauty into a symbol of identity. The country's capital is called Dili, located on the north coast, with a breathtaking view of the ocean and nearby mountains that hide much of the country's extraordinary recent history. As the youngest country in Southeast Asia, Timor has endured struggles that have shaped it into the independent nation it is today. For more than 2 decades, the Timorese people fought against Indonesian occupation, facing violence and oppression. In the sacred mountains of Timor, known as Foho, the people took refuge and fought bravely. These mountains were the sacred hideout of the Timorese resistance, the FALINTIL, who fought for their nation's independence. It was in these rugged landscapes that the population found refuge and hope, resisting occupation and keeping the flame of freedom alive. The official language of East Timor is Portuguese, a vestige of its colonial past and recent independence. This link with Portugal is so deep that it is reflected in many of the country's traditions and monuments. One of the most emblematic is the Cristo Rei, a giant statue that stands over Dili Bay. But although its origin may seem Portuguese, this Cristo Rei was a gift from the Indonesian president in 1996 during the Indonesian occupation. The most curious thing about this statue is that it faces Jakarta, the capital of Indonesia, a gesture that was not initially well received by the Timorese people. However, over time, the Cristo Rei has become a symbol of pride, and the steps leading up to the statue have become a popular spot for locals to exercise while enjoying the breathtaking views of Dili Bay. In addition to its history and culture, East Timor's nature is undoubtedly one of the wildest and most unique in this region of the planet. The waters off its coast are home to some of the richest marine biodiversity on the planet, making Timor a prime destination for diving and snorkeling enthusiasts. Among its best-known islands is Atauro, an island famous not only for its marine biodiversity, but also for its history as a prison during the Portuguese and Indonesian occupation. This is how the island of Atauro became a place of confinement for those who opposed the regime. During the Portuguese colonial era, it was used as a prison where political prisoners and rebels were sent, far from public view, in almost total isolation. When Indonesia took control of East Timor in 1975, the island continued to play a similar role, becoming a detention center for those who resisted the occupation. During this time, Atauro became a symbol of suffering and oppression, a reminder of the tireless resistance of the Timorese people. However, beyond its dark past, Atauro is now a place of contrasts. Its crystal clear waters, teeming with marine life, and its breathtaking landscapes hide a history that remains vital to understanding the struggle for East Timor's independence. Just 30 kilometers from Dili, Atauro offers crystal clear waters and endless marine species, but its history as a prison makes it a reminder of the difficult times East Timor experienced under foreign rule. Today, Atauro is famous for its natural beauty and water activities, but it is also home to the Wawata Topu, a tribe of women with a 1,000-year-old fishing tradition that makes them one of the most fascinating communities in this region. A reality that will surely surprise you, and that you will want to learn more about. The Wawata Topu women are renowned for their unique harpoon fishing skills, an ancestral practice that has been passed down from generation to generation. Most surprising of all is that, in some remote corners of Timor, these women are believed to fish wearing very little clothing, reflecting a deep connection with nature and the sea. In their daily lives, the Wawata Topu women dive into the crystal-clear waters of Atauro, armed with harpoons that they wield with skill and agility, catching fish to feed their families and communities. After their hard work, they walk several kilometers, often barefoot, to sell the fish at local markets. This work is not only a source of income, but an integral part of their cultural identity. In addition to their fishing skills, the Wawata Topu are considered guardians of the secrets of the sea and ancestral traditions. In East Timor, the relationship with spirits is deep and a fundamental part of the daily life of its inhabitants. Belief in sea spirits, said to inhabit the waters and protect fishermen and travelers, is common in many communities across the country. These beliefs are passed down from generation to generation, and the Wawata Topu, like other inhabitants of the region, pay tribute to these spirits in various ceremonies and rituals, seeking their protection and favors. Luck plays a crucial role in the lives of the Timorese, who believe that their destiny is influenced by the presence of spirits. Harvests, weather, and fishing depend on a respectful connection with the spiritual world. For the Wawata Topu women who fish in the waters near Atauro, success in their work is considered both a blessing from the sea spirits and the result of their hard work. That is why, before going out to sea, many of them perform small rituals, leaving offerings to the water to ask for good winds, a bountiful catch, and a safe return to shore. For the Timorese, the sea is not only a source of sustenance, but also a sacred place that must be respected and revered. But belief in spirits is not limited to the sea. In the mountains and on the land, the Timorese also trust that nature spirits influence their crops and the well-being of their communities. During the planting and harvesting seasons, festivals and ceremonies are held to ask the spirits of the earth to bless the crops and protect the farmland. For farming families, these rituals are essential, as they believe that without the goodwill of the spirits, their crops would not thrive. One of the most controversial and curious traditions related to these ancestral beliefs is that some women in this country decide not to have intimate relationships for long periods of time, for reasons that you will soon learn more about. Returning to the Wawata Topu women, you may be surprised to learn that many of them fish by holding a sharp harpoon, but without clothes. This surprising practice is shrouded in mystery and rooted in ancient legends that have been passed down from generation to generation. In some of the most isolated villages on the island, it is believed that these women still perform ancestral rituals that include traditional dances and chants dedicated to the spirits of the sea. This act is not only a way of fishing, but also a deep spiritual link that connects the Wawata Topu with the gods of the ocean, a tradition that endures as a constant tribute to the forces they consider guardians of their lives and work. According to local beliefs, fishing without clothes has a very powerful symbolic meaning. For many, this custom is as much an act of total surrender to the sea spirits as it is a form of spiritual purification. In some remote villages, it is believed that the sea, as a powerful and mysterious force, can only be truly honored if women give themselves completely to it, stripping themselves of all worldly possessions. The act of fishing naked is not only a rite of faith, but also a way of becoming completely integrated into the natural environment, merging with the waters and winds in a symbolic act of respect for nature. The tradition of fishing without clothes also has a practical dimension linked to the connection with Mother Earth. Nudity is said to represent a return to a primitive state, a way of getting closer to the very essence of nature, without physical or spiritual barriers. Some of these women believe that by stripping themselves of everything, from their clothes to their adornments, they achieve a more direct connection with the elements of the sea, thus promoting their success in fishing. This act of purity and respect for nature has been passed down through generations, and through this custom, the Wawata Topu not only seek food, but also seek to keep alive the traditions and beliefs that their ancestors left them. The Wawata Topu's connection to the sea is so deep that, in addition to all this, they are believed to be able to predict the weather and the tides, guided by the ancient knowledge of their ancestors. One of the most fascinating beliefs in East Timor, apart from the Wawata Topu women, is the legend of the ancestral crocodile, known as Rilaun Fatu, a mythical being that plays a fundamental role in the origin of this country. According to the elders, in ancient times, a large, wise crocodile emerged from the depths of the sea to travel across the islands, bringing with it the first seeds of life. On its journey, the crocodile traveled from the waters of the ocean to the shores of Timor, leaving a trail of fertility and life. As it advanced, its body touched the land and mountains, and where its feet landed, rivers and forests were born. The islanders believe that the shape of the island itself is a reflection of the path followed by this Rilaun Fatu, with its tails transforming into mountains and its footprints into fertile valleys. It is said that this traveling crocodile was not only a being of strength and wisdom, but also the protector of the men and women of Timor, watching over their well-being. The elders say that at the end of its journey, the crocodile submerged itself in the ocean one last time, leaving its spirit as the eternal guardian of the lands it had touched. According to tradition, on full moon nights, fishermen and elders claim to hear its distant roar, echoing across the ocean, protecting the islands and guiding wandering souls back home. The legend of the Rilaun Fatu is also intertwined with the story of the first encounter of the inhabitants of East Timor with other cultures, such as the Portuguese and Indonesians, who arrived centuries after the crocodile's journey. The arrival of these foreigners was not seen as an invasion, but as a visit that the Rilaun Fatu had anticipated, bringing with it new traditions and teachings, but without disturbing the spiritual balance it had established between the people and the sea. Today, many Timorese still celebrate this legend in ceremonies where the spirit of the crocodile is invoked, asking for blessings for the harvest and fishing. This ancestral crocodile is more than just a legend. It is a symbol of unity, of the deep connection between human beings, the land, and the sea, a bond that remains alive in the culture of East Timor. But surely, an even more controversial reality than the mythical origin of this country lies in its most hidden and least understood traditions, such as the Lulik, a deeply rooted spiritual and cultural practice that regulates the lives of many families. This tradition, in which certain people, places, and even objects are believed to have sacred energy and powerful connections to the gods, dictates many everyday customs, one of the most surprising being that which affects family relationships, especially marital ones. According to belief, the Lulik is a supernatural force that influences people's lives, regulating what is permitted and what is forbidden. One of the most surprising and curious rules is that many women in East Timor must avoid intimate relations with their husbands for long periods of time due to the influence of this sacred power. This period of abstinence is not only a custom, but a spiritual obligation, as it is believed that the Lulik prevents women from approaching their husbands during this time, as its sacred energy is said to interfere with the flow of community life, or even with the fertility of the land and crops. The tradition of the Lulik is respected not only by women, but also by men, who understand that these restrictions are fundamental to the well-being of the family and the prosperity of the village. During these periods of abstinence, women not only remain physically distant from their husbands, but also participate in spiritual ceremonies and purification rituals, believing that these rituals allow the cycle of life to continue harmoniously and protected by ancestral forces. This practice, although surprising, is seen as a form of protection and balance. The connection between the Lulik and the daily lives of the people of East Timor is so deep that many Timorese believe that any transgression of these sacred rules could bring serious spiritual consequences, affecting not only the family directly involved, but also the entire community. At this point, we would like to ask you, how long do you think you could endure practicing Lulik? Has anything similar ever happened to you? Would you like to fish alongside the Wawata Topu women? And what has surprised you most about East Timor? Pause the video and leave us your comments. You know that doing so is the best way you can help Uncensored World continue working hard to help you discover the world and its wonders every week, so thank you. Lulik is probably considered one of the most notable difficulties for many inhabitants of East Timor. But when it comes to real challenges, one of the biggest ones affecting this beautiful country has to do with its currency and the high cost of living faced by its inhabitants. East Timor is, surprisingly, one of the most expensive countries in Asia and Southeast Asia, something that can take those who arrive expecting low prices by surprise. This is due to a number of economic factors, but one of the main ones dates back to a few years ago when the country attempted to unify its different currencies, the Indonesian rupiah, the Portuguese escudo, the Australian dollar and the US dollar, into a single currency. Until then, East Timor had used a system of 4 different currencies, which created an unstable and complex economy. In 2004, the decision was made to unify these currencies under the US dollar, which caused a notable increase in the prices of goods and services, as the value of the US currency is much stronger compared to the local currencies that were previously used. However, this is not the only factor that has contributed to the high cost of living in East Timor. After independence, the country is still in a process of reconstruction, and its infrastructure remains limited. The lack of an efficient public transportation system means that distances, although short, can take a long time to travel, affecting both residents and travelers. The scarcity of transportation options, coupled with the recovery of infrastructure after the conflict, has kept the cost of living high in the country. Despite its difficulties, East Timor remains a country of great beauty and a history of struggle that has left a deep mark on the hearts of its people. Its tropical climate, stunning nature, and mix of cultures make it a unique place in the world. A country where the history of resistance and rebirth, the beauty of its people, traditions, and mysteries intertwine with the rich biodiversity of the island, creating a destination that, although young in terms of independence, carries with it centuries of culture and tradition. At this point in your journey, you're probably wondering how best to enjoy this paradise to the fullest, discovering how to get there and the different options that make East Timor not only a beautiful destination, but also one of the most enigmatic places in Southeast Asia. If you're planning a visit, we'll tell you how to get there from the US and Europe, how to get around the country, and what to expect in terms of the cost of living. The most common way to get to East Timor is to fly to its capital, Dili, although there are no direct flights from the US or Europe. From the US, travelers must make at least one stopover in Asia. The main routes usually pass through airports such as Singapore, Bali, or Kuala Lumpur, from where you can take flights to Dili. From Europe, the most common options are to fly to Singapore or Bali, and then take a connecting flight to East Timor. Most international flights stop in these cities due to the lack of direct connections with Europe or America. Once in East Timor, getting around the country can be a challenging but fascinating experience. Infrastructure in some areas is still being improved, and although the main routes are relatively well connected, distances can be long and the roads are mostly winding and unpaved. Public transportation is limited, so the most common options are local taxis or renting a car with a driver. In rural areas, you can opt for rental motorbikes, typically motorcycles, or even informal collective transport, known as BCACs. Short distances can take quite a while due to the lack of quality roads, so it is advisable to plan ahead. Despite being a fascinating destination, East Timor is known for having a relatively high cost of living compared to other countries in Southeast Asia. Since independence, the country has experienced a rise in prices due to the dollarization of its economy and limited local infrastructure. For example, the price of a coffee in Dili can range from $3 to $5 depending on the area. As for a dinner for two, prices vary depending on the type of restaurant, but you can generally expect to pay between $25 and $40 at a mid-range restaurant. For those looking for accommodation, a night in a hotel in a modest location can cost between $50 and $100, depending on the category and location of the accommodation. These prices may seem high, especially considering the limited range of services and products available in the country. But it is important to remember that East Timor remains an unexplored and unique gem in the region. As you have seen, every corner of East Timor exudes history, passion, and beauty, making it a hidden and little-known treasure that offers travelers a unique way to enjoy the magic of the planet. At Uncensored World, we hope this video has helped you discover East Timor, as you have seen, one of the most fascinating and unknown gems on the planet. If so, don't hesitate to leave us a like and a comment. It's the best way to help us continue working every week to bring you more interesting content like this, or like this video, which you can now watch to discover another of the most mysterious and beautiful places on Earth. Click on it, you're going to enjoy it.